served and well appreciated by every American lucky enough to visit your shores. And America has long shared a special relationship, a special friendship with the Philippines that is strong and enduring. In part of the enduring friendship between our nations has been on our shared sacrifices as we fought together side by side, a poignant reminder in these turbulent days of the cost of freedom. And part of our enduring friendship has been based on very practical concerns. We want to help the Philippines strengthen its democracy and continue its economic recovery, and we've offered our belief that a new long-term security agreement will enhance our mutual security. In addition, speaking as a political leader, a new agreement will preserve bipartisan support for this continued economic and military aid. But part of America's love of the Philippines is based on pure, unabashed sentiment and optimism. Americans have cheered the people power revolution, which galvanized the world, inspiring freedom-loving people everywhere. And you, Mrs. President, proved that ballots are stronger than bullets, and that while democracy can be delayed, ultimately it cannot be denied. And your accomplishments since 1986 are monumental. A new Constitution in 1987, free elections for thousands of local and national leaders, the restoration of press freedom and other civil liberties, and in just a few short years, the Philippines has gone from a deep recession to steady economic growth. And we urge you to continue with the free market reforms needed to spur Philippine economic development. Political and economic freedom are the destiny of the Philippine people, and the destiny of the American people must be and is to stand with you. Ms. President, early today I spoke of our nation's shared commitment to freedom, democracy, peace, and stability. But just as important as the values that link us as nations are the fundamental values that link us as peoples, what Barbara calls family, faith, and friendship. You have said that being a grandparent makes you happier than being president. Well, Cory, if you'll excuse the informality, that's just one more thing that you and I agree on. And by your leadership and by your example of faith and family and friends, you have inspired a generation of freedom lovers on both sides of the Pacific. And so, may I invite our guests to raise our glasses. Here is to Philippine-American friendship, to a better world for our grandchildren and for children everywhere, to the peace and prosperity of your great nation, and most of all, here is to hope, as you once put it, to blazing, serene hope, and to those who inspire it around the globe. God bless you, and may you be very
Mr. President, Mrs. Bush, distinguished guests, friends. Yes, Mr. President, we have many things in common. Unfortunately, height is not one of them. So thank you very much. I have returned to the United States in a world much changed by startling events. In Central Europe, the men of iron vision are loosening peacefully their long grip on power. The opposition in a communist state has actually come to power. A communist party has voted itself out of existence, becoming in effect an opposition to itself. In another country, the people are voting with their feet, presenting their government with a choice to either change into a real democracy or continue its iron rule in an empty state. In the Baltic states, protests are tolerated, and the leader of the Soviet Union counsels moderation among its hardline allies abroad and practices it at home. In Korea, a military dictator begged forgiveness, and freer elections than was ever thought possible were held. There will be no turning back, I predict, for Korea is caught in the tide of the future that first went out in the Philippines. President Bush mentioned this morning and again this evening the peaceful people power revolution that restored democracy in the Philippines. The memory of that stirring event is engraved in the hearts of all Filipinos who lived through it and deeply impressed in the memory of the world. The Philippines is a small country and cannot claim to affect directly events beyond its borders, certainly not across half the world in Europe. Yet, it is not too much to say that the images of heroism spawned by our people power revolution gave dominated peoples throughout the world a glimpse of certain possibilities that they are now exploring. The possibility, for example, that armor and infantry do not exhaust the varieties of power. That perhaps people by peaceful numbers and unshakable resolve may sometimes tilt the balance in their favor. As they saw it happen in my country, and as it has happened in other parts of the world since then. For the first time in a long time, something different has happened in the world. And perhaps the Philippines had something to do with it. If so, then we have simply returned the favor for the support we received from friends of liberty throughout the world. I hope and I pray it is an irreversible trend, and that the one tragic exception to the spreading tolerance of change will merely confirm the bankruptcy of returning to the old ways. But anything new is fragile, and I share the apprehension of President Bush that on this bright new age of tolerance and freedom, the darkness may yet fall abruptly. It has happened in one country. The means for it are ready at hand. The inclination for it is the oldest in man. We must remain prepared for that dark contingency, yet we must do everything possible and prudent to encourage those who are working for change. In this desire for constructive change and movement towards democracy, we are one with the United States. We look to the United States as the natural leader in this great movement. She has ever been in the forefront of the modern struggle for both peace and freedom. For the Philippines, these hopeful events are a continuation of the struggle for freedom through peace, so as to bring a kinder, gentler world to birth. President Bush is the man to show us the way. Those are his words. They are his promise. As a man who has lived through war, he knows the price of peace. As I, who lived through tyranny, know the irreplaceable value of freedom. Together, we are pledged with many other women and men of goodwill throughout the world, in the centers of power and in the humblest abode, toward this goal of peace and freedom. This sense of new possibilities must inform the future relations of the United States and the Philippines and guide the discussions we shall have. It It is time for something new to happen in the world, and we are all so privileged to be a part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a toast to the good health of President and Mrs. Bush and the enduring friendship of the Philippines and the United States. Mabuhay.